Hello. All right. So we're going to get started, um, and if you haven't gotten the brushes yet, I just want to go through that really quick because there might be some newbies here. And so if you just go to my website and go to Procreate brushes, they're right here. They're just in the Procreate free brushes, and they're right here. And so it's a zipped file, so you'll need to tap it, and it'll ask you, if you're in Safari, this is how it works. It'll ask you to download, and then you'll see up here the little arrow. It's downloading. You can tap on it and see the status of its download. And then once it downloads, you can tap on it, and it goes to your files. And it's right here, zipped. This is one that I tested, so this is all you'll see is the zipped file, and you tap on it and it unzips to this folder. If you can't find it, so the files tab will bring you into the, it might be different where it brings you. It might be downloads, it might be recent, but you can go tap on recents and it'll be the first one at the top. But when you tap on that zipped file, then it brings you, where did it bring me? It brings you to on my iPad. I don't know why actually, because before it used to bring me to downloads. But anyways, you'll need to find it. Oh, maybe because I put it in a newsletter folder. So you can go to downloads and then tap on the folder itself. And then you just tap on these and they'll go right into Procreate. The swatches will go to the very bottom of your list and the brushes will go to the very top of your list. Is Brenda here? Oh, I forgot to message her. We talked about a good time and I ended up not doing a super great time for her because I have to feed my dogs at 12. I wanted to do it more like at 11:30. Oh, there, I see deck level joint. Hi, Brenda. I tried to do 11:30 and realized that it was gonna bump into feeding my dogs, which I know other people, I could get them to do it, but it just was easier this way. So I'm glad that Brenda was able to join. She might be rushing home from work right now. I can't quite tell if the color right now on my screen, I played around with my lighting and then I had to turn my background to the light interface, and I think on my phone and on the screen next to me this color looks pretty accurate. So I'm really hoping that the camera, I can't lock the camera focus at all on this Instagram Live, but I'm hoping that it stays fairly accurate. So you should have the Snowman ornament brushes. I did include the monoline big because I was going to show you how to draw the bulb itself. And then I decided to just make a bulb stamp brush because I didn't want to spend a bunch of time on that. So you don't need that. We won't use the monoline brush. And these brushes that I provided are just to get this look. And that's completely up to you what kind of look you want. But the Starry Night is good for the snow. And, oh, I can't remember why I added the stippling. Oh, no, yeah, anyways, I can't remember if that's some of the snow. And then these two are just for if you want to do a little fun chain. And then these are some different brushes for, I think I used my soft Larapuna on the whole entire thing, except for the bulb itself. So let's go ahead and get started. And then your palette will be, if you go into palettes, it will be at the very bottom of your list. I have a lot right now. So you can find your palette and then tap on the three little dots. So this is new, and set it to, it's already on, so if you don't have it already selected, if you tap on the three little dots, you can set it as default. So this one doesn't have that option because it's already set to default. And then now I can go to disk, which is how I like to view palettes. And I have that palette right here. So you can do any size canvas you want. I'm just going to do a 10-inch canvas, 10 by 10. And I kind of go at a pace where people can follow along. I'm going to turn the background to a dark blue. And so in your palette, you can choose the darkest one right here. These three and these three are all the same. So there's 2 rows of color right here. And that's just my way of saying, hey, these are kind of the backgroundy colors. And then I like to add a few layers. And I'm going to go to a layer above the background and choose one of my Larapunas. So you can play around with these and see which one you like best. Oh, I'm looking at the screen next to me, and I know you can see the phone reflection because it's a dark color, but all right, so I just chose the next lightest color, and I'm just gonna get some, oh, I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see that. I'm just gonna, you know, kind of blob on some fun stripy colors here. Maybe go a slight bit higher, lighter here. We can come back to this. The biggest thing right now is, oh, and these brushes, if you tap, you get more color, and then you can kind of smudge them even without being on the smudge. The biggest thing right now is knowing approximately how dark your canvas is going to be, because it really does affect all your color choices. I'm going to tap and hold the eraser and just kind of erase some of this. I went a little overboard. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on that, and we're going to add the snow later. I don't know if anybody's been having, see, this isn't working, problems getting things to switch. I'm going to tap and hold smudge brush and see if it switches. Yeah, it didn't switch to the right brush. And I don't know what's going on with that, but since the update, I've had a bunch of troubles with that. So I'm going to zoom in. I just kind of have blobby, streaky blues there. And it doesn't matter what color you do for your bulb. We're going to add snow later, so don't worry about the snow. Choose your bulb brush, and let's go to a new layer. And it just needs to be a color you can see, and then we're going to turn it off. So just don't blind yourself with bright white. And then let's see how big you want to make it. I don't know, I want it to dominate the whole thing here. But if you're going to do something like, I'll show you my printout here, you know, some other things up in the rest of the image, then you might want it to be smaller. And you can downsize it later, just not incredibly much. All right, so we'll start with that, and then I'm going to turn it off. But I'm going to tap it and select it. And I'm going to wait a second to see if you can see my selection lines. If you can't see lines very well or they're too strong, you can go to the wrench tool here and to prefs. And then the selection mask visibility you can change right here. So it comes in handy sometimes to have it more visible, and it comes in handy sometimes to have it less visible. And I see that it's wigging out the camera, so I'm going to turn it way down. So I just have the bulb selected now, and I can go to a new layer. I'm seeing that my bulb color that I chose is exactly the same color as this background, so I can't even tell that something's on that layer. I'm just going to lock the layer. I can see it now. I'm going to go to a new layer, and I'm going to add a little bit of glassy feel to the brush, to the bulb. So I'm going to choose white. And I'm just going to choose soft Larapuna. I like texture. A lot of people won't want texture on their glass. I'm on a big size, and I'm not really focusing on realism, but if you want it to really have a look of you know, bright just in the right places and not bright just in the right places, look at a photo and see, you know, exactly where is it the brightest, where are some of your really bright reflections on the glass. I printed this earlier because I was testing my paper. you have bright reflections in certain areas that will just, once you get a super bright reflection on there, it will definitely make it look more glassy no matter what you've got going on. And remember, you can erase. So this Larapuna, I'm barely tapping, and then I'm smudging. So I'm putting my pencil down and I'm pressing a little bit where I want more color, and then I'm smudging. And I'm kind of going around like the shape of the bulb here. I'm going to go a little bit smaller up here for the glass up here. And I really just try to make sure I can see most of my edges. It's okay if you can't see all of those edges though. And then you can erase a little. I'm probably not going to do it super awesomely in this. I always feel a little rushed in these lives because I don't want them to be boring. But now we can go over an hour, which is kind of nice if people really want to watch that long. I don't know if that's the case. So I'm kind of erasing a little. And then just so I can change that later if I want, I'm going to go to a new layer to get my real strong reflection. Oh, I really wasn't on super bright white either. So I'm going to double tap in white, and I'll just stay on Larapuna and go super small. And let's decide where you want your light coming from. I think just over here. So we'll get some super bright patches over here, maybe wider than that, painterly here, maybe a little bit down here too. Oof, I usually turn my canvas a lot. So we can come back to this part too when we're done. I'm going to put a couple little reflections, or strong reflections up here too. Gabby, yes, my canvas is 300 dpi always. Sorry, I always assume that I kind of forget that there might be people watching that are super beginners. I know you're not a super beginner, Gabby, but thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I did 10" at 300 dpi. The bulb itself was made on a 12" canvas, so you can make a pretty big canvas with that bulb, or canvas, and then use that bulb stamp. So I'm going to deselect it and see. I think I like it so far. I might want it to be a little bit more pronounced later, but we'll go ahead and just start with that. And I'm going to lock these, so 2-finger swipe to the right on those 2 layers, and that's going to prevent me from accidentally drawing on those layers. And then I want them to be on top. So all of my drawing is going to be under that because it's inside the glass, so then it will look like it's inside. So I'm on an empty layer under those glass layers. I can group those and get them out of the way and come down here and just add a few layers. If you are changing the size of this, you're going to want to select your stamp layer as well. So if you decide you want this to be a little smaller or move it to one side, just select each of those layers and your stamp layer, because we continue to use this for the whole illustration, and you need them all to be moved at the same time or shrunk at the same time. So let's come back down to this. If you look at, I don't know if this is going to focus. If you look at my original, I have a little tiny gap between where the illustration is and where the glass is, and that just sort of gave it a look of having a little thickness there of the glass. And I guess we can still do that. So let me show you how I would do that. So I would go ahead and duplicate my bulb that I stamped and turn one of those on. So one is your original and one is going to be a slightly smaller version. And then just make sure snapping and magnetics are not on, and zoom way in. Keep it on uniform and just barely, barely, barely move it. So I hope that you can see that. It's just very slight. And I only did it around the bottom. You could do it at the top too. You can make the whole thing just a smidge smaller. And then use this. You turn it off. Let's rename it inner, and this one outer. Or you could do smaller and bigger. So this one is now going to be the one we want to select, so that when we're doing the illustration, it's all staying within the inner sized, so that we have the inner sized bulb, so that we have this little glass thickness showing. Hopefully that wasn't just confusing. So if you don't want to do that step, just select your original stamp. And then we're going to go to a fresh layer, and we're going to start on the snow. If it's easier to sketch first, now's a good time to do that. So let's go ahead and do that. I like to go to a sketchy pencil brush. Let's just go to sketching section and 6B. I'm on white so I can see it on this dark background. I'm gonna kind of follow that rule of thirds thing where I'm not gonna have my horizon line right in the middle, but you know, it doesn't really matter that much. So just make a couple hills. I'll do that. And then maybe think about what style of trees you want. I used these little triangle trees, and that's what I'll show today because they're super simple. But maybe you like to have a tree that has branches out like this. And make them really small back here and bigger as you come up. So you're going to want to have a few trees kind of not just on those lines, but also in these areas. You might want to start with your snowman, and that's going to be kind of the focal point. Or you'll have a big tree up here like I had that's a focal point. But what you're going to do is have smaller things back here, and they get bigger as you get up over here. So if your trees are really big up here, I'm just going to stick with something similar to my original here. I'm going to go on a new layer so I can move it around. So tree, and then I can move it around, make it bigger. And having these get smaller as you go back is really going to give that sense of depth. You might want to decide where your snowman is going to be also before you get too far. So we're going to just do a smaller, just kind of a normal snowman, medium and big. They're going to overlap a little, so you're not going to be doing, you know, like marbles, right? They're going to be kind of squashed and a little bit overlapped. The tree over here, a deciduous tree with the little bird on it, that one is, you know, I don't know about you, but I really don't have fun drawing deciduous trees. So I'm just gonna sort of make a thick trunk and try to get some branches that get smaller and smaller. Have one come out. I'm not going to have it be right where that line is. Have one come out where the bird can be sitting. And just don't worry about this too much. Here we go. I'm just looking over to see if there's any questions. Feel free to ask questions. All right. I feel like we need another tree over here. Maybe one that's a little closer than these, So a medium-sized one. Oh, you could overlap them too. I don't like how these two are so same at the top there. Maybe we can overlap. I don't know. All right, I think that's okay. I'm going to select my snowman and just move him over a little bit. Try not to have his head bump into lines and things like that. I might need to lower this tree also. Okay. If you're going to do the trees similar to mine in the one I posted, you can divide these trees up into a few sections where you're going to do kind of a lighter to darker thing. So you might want to sketch those. I'm trying not to teach in a way that has people limited to exactly how I'm doing stuff. So, you know, if yours looks just like this, it's totally fine. But you can make, if you have a favorite way of making trees, this is a good time to do that. All right, I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and merge my sketch layers. I could erase some of the snow back here. Let's see if it works. It did not work to tap and hold to get to the eraser. Although, Veronica, I know you said you have the same problem where you tap and hold and it's not doing what it's supposed to do to switch brushes. But sometimes I've also noticed that when I'm on a brush and I tap and hold to switch to that brush over here and it's not looking like it is, in actuality it is. It is the sketch. Look. It is the right brush. It's just not showing it right here. It is this brush, but it's showing that it's on this brush. I've already emailed Procreate about this. And then if you, I'm trying to remember how I got out of that. If I switch, no, I can't remember how I fixed it. Yeah, I didn't fix it. I remember trying to figure out what brush am I actually on. So now that I've tapped and gone back to it, I am going to be on that brush for smudge. So it's being weird. Let's go back up to our Snowman ornament brushes. And I'm going to 2-finger swipe my sketch layer so I don't accidentally draw that and include it in my illustration. And I'm going to move it up top and turn the opacity down. All right, so I have 3 layers in here. I like to add a few more. In the palette, you're going to see all these blues. And in my original, I know we all think of snow as white, but we're doing some pretty dark blues here. So think about each of your little hills. We're going to pretend the other things aren't there right now. Each of your little hills are lighter at the top, darker at the bottom, also darker as you're further away, and lighter for the closer ones. So this hill will be darker than this hill, which will be darker than this hill. Each hill will be lighter at the top than they are at the bottom. And we're going to do each one on a different layer. So if you are doing this back one, you're going to want to be on a lower layer so that this hill can be on a layer above it and kind of block that messy bottom area. And then this hill will be on a layer above that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go down to this bottom layer and start on this back hill here. And I also have to apologize because I didn't practice. I did this illustration last year and I have had a crazy morning finding out that my furnace wasn't going to get fixed today, which was the plan, and didn't have time to practice. So I know I used the regular soft Larapuna on this whole illustration. I remember challenging myself to try to do the whole illustration with that. And then I'm going to look at, this might be a little too dark. I'm going to look at this middle blue right here and have fun being messy, blobbing this on at the base of that hill. So I don't need to worry about all of this, just the base of that hill. Oh, it's a little light, so I can go even darker. This is why it's so important to know what background color you're going to use. And then play with this brush. All of these Larapuna brushes, if you tap, you get more color. And then if you just smudge, you can really do a lot with that blob and smear it around. And then I'm going to go lighter and lighter. Let's go to this one. And I can come back and change this. I'm going to go to a bigger size too. I'm really hoping my dogs don't bark while we're on live here too. They're in here keeping warm with me. Lighter and lighter. I don't think I'm going to go all the way white on this back hill here. Oh! So I forgot to select my bulb. So this is a good lesson. This is good troubleshooting. Oh, can I repeat what brush I'm using? I'm using a downloaded brush in case you're late. I'm using Soft Larapuna. And the brushes are on my website. So I forgot to select my inner bulb. And so it's going out of the area. So if I don't want to start over, all I have to do is select that inner bulb and then invert. But because now I can erase all of this. So now I can just tap clear on that layer and it erased all of this outside of the inner bulb. So now before I keep going, I need to tap this inner bulb, select, and now I can go back to that layer. All of my layers, I'm going to have that inner bulb selected. If you didn't do that step where we used the inner bulb, just use the one bulb you do have. So now any of my drawing will be contained in that shape. So I won't have that problem with it messy over here. I'm going to leave this dark for now. Oh, the other thing about going from dark to light is also because you're pretending you're in a bulb, the very bottom is going to be a little darker. So this will all still be the lightest, but down here will be darker. Excuse me. All right, so that's the back hill. I'm going to go to a new layer. I have my inner bulb selected, and I'm going to start with, I'm going to stay on that brush, and I'm going to start with a lighter color this time. I think I started with this darkest one down here this time, or last time. So I'm going to go a little lighter, start adding my darker bottom area here. Just kind of play around with it. I'm really messy with this. Come a little lighter. This one's quite blue, not necessarily lighter. Lighter. I think I want to go fairly white at the top of this hill. And then this is sort of a nighttime scene too, so there's not going to be, unless you maybe add a moon in there too, there's not going to be super duper white. I mean, you can. You can. You can do anything you want. I'm going to zoom in so you can see the texture on this brush. So this is light taps. I'll show you. I'm kind of tapping quickly. That was too hard, so I can undo. Whoa! All right. So as long as it's a little lighter than this one, and it goes from light up here to darker down here, so the bottom of the hill is a little darker than the top. And then we're gonna, the selection is there still, so we just go to a new layer on top of that for our final hill. I don't want to start very dark at all. I think I'm just gonna stay on the light blue that I'm on, which is this one right here. Oh no, it wasn't, it was this one. All right, I'm going to go to this one right here. I'm going to do that one for the bottom area here. Bigger brush. Oh, my dog just snorted. I don't know if you can hear that. Please feel free to ask questions. I will stop every couple minutes and look. I went to a lighter color, and I'm also trying to not go crazy up into the other hill areas. I don't want to just go to a smaller brush, not too small. A little bit smaller is fine, because I want that texture. If I go too small, right, I'm not going to have a lot of that fuzzy edge texture. So this is a variation of the Procreate Larapuna brush. I loved it so much, but there were certain things I didn't like about it. I'm going to go brighter. So I made my own and did a bunch of tweaks, and then since then I just keep making new ones from those and making different changes and having different uses for each one. So you could get a totally different look with this other Larapuna brush. And then this one was, I think it was based on one of those too, but I made a lot of changes to that one. So I haven't tested that one on this type of illustration. And when I zoom out, I think this is needing a little bit of work here. So I'm going to go back down to this layer and go to one of my darker blues and just kind of make it look a little more like a natural transition there. It kind of was standing out right there, bright and then dark. All right, I think that's pretty good. Oh, I didn't follow my line over here, my horizon line or whatever. The hill kind of scoops over here and I came it down this way, but I think it's okay. All right, so you could go ahead and group those together if you want to keep them kind of organized. I usually don't. And then I'm going to go to a new layer. And I'm going to start with a really dark green. And I'm staying on this brush. And I'm just going to go through and do all the trees. The trees are also darker to lighter from back to front. And this is all talked about in a class that I have on creating scenes with depth. There's tricks to making things look like things are farther away. So if you're on Skillshare, definitely check that out. So, and then also I'm going, this is just a base layer. I'm going to do other colors on top. So I'm not going to worry about colors right now, just getting a solid green down. And I went pretty small. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it very well. And I'm kind of pressing way harder than I was on these areas. And I'm on a new layer. I'm just going to get some green down. Streaky. It's not going to look too streaky at this point. Hi from France. Hello. Isn't it so cool? I really have so many issues with Instagram and Facebook, but right now the pros definitely outweigh the cons. Having an international community is just awesome. And I would have never met Brenda and so many others. I call a lot of our Facebook group, I say, my art friend. My art friend, Allie in Cyprus. Brenda's my art sister. I don't like the word precious. When I hear, don't be so precious with your art, but it really fits. I spent a lot of time practicing not having realistic looking things, and that's why I'm blobbing color on right now, because it just works. It works. You should try it if you know, sometimes people feel the grass is always greener on the other side, and they see certain art and oh, I wish I could do it just like that, but you know, I'm the same way with, you know, people who do really stylized things. Like, I wish I could do it because my brain wants to do realistic things. So I've practiced and practiced and practiced, and to not do realism. So, oh, someone's asking where I'll be saving this live. My name's actually Jennifer. Talk about a confusing name on my account, Layla and Poe. Layla and Poe are my dogs. This will be in, I don't know if it's called IGTV anymore, but it will be, if you go to my wall, there is a little triangle now, like a play button. It looks different from the old icon, so I don't know if they still call it IGTV either. But I have a whole bunch of lessons there. In fact, it won't show. I'll try to show at the end of this. I'll show you on my iPad that's next to me. I think I can try to get to it and show you. Scroll back to last year. I have other bulb lessons, and this one is at the end of one of the lessons. But the picture on the image looks like a clear glass bulb with a dark, or a bunch of glass bulbs with a dark blue background hanging in a tree. I think that's the one that goes into that lesson. And then there's another one nearby last year that has some bulbs with some silver painty streaky lines also. But there's a bunch of lessons there. So I have my green, and it's just kind of a background, a base color, and I'm going to a new layer. And now I'm going to do my sort of colors on top, but you have to start on the bottom here. So I'm going to go to a darker green. I just remembered you have to start on the bottom. So I just selected this green, and I'm just going to go down darker. You can do any greens you want. Did it just switch to a different color? I don't know, I thought this was a fun stylized look. I want to have the painty look still. I'm tapping harder to get more color. And I'm going to do all my darks. I'm going to get more color on these back ones so that they are a little darker in the end. And I might actually turn off my outline drawing. It's kind of in my way right now. And then we can just start going lighter. Maybe this one right here. Kind of looks like an upside down ice cream cone. Kids put melted candies on. I'm rushing. I would go with a smaller brush each time. Maybe go a little greener. Don't change your colors too much if you're still going with green. Or you could do something entirely different. Make rainbow trees. Bigger as we get to these bigger trees. Intentionally leaving streakiness. If you joined late, I have brushes, all of these brushes on my website. All right, I'm going to one more lighter color here. It's all linked in my bio. I did not include this in the newsletter, just for making it easier, honestly. But sign up for my newsletter while you're there. I give more freebies. Smaller size. I'm going to zoom in for you. Might want to erase a little. I can tell it's on the right brush because of the brush shape here, but I'm wondering if it's going to show the correct brush up there. It is, so it worked this time. It just erased a little. I need to go to a smaller brush for this. Okay. Trees. Gabby says there's an IGTV app. I can't remember. There was something recently, and it was something about certain countries can't see IGTV unless they're in the IGTV app. And I can't remember where they were from when we figured that out. So if you can't see on my wall, right above where all my photos start on my wall, you'll see different icons. One is for reels, and then one is just a triangle, a sideways triangle, like a play button on a anything that plays, right? Just the sideways triangle. And that is the IGTV now. If you don't see that icon, then you need the IGTV app. I'm pretty sure that's what we figured out. All right, we got our trees. I'm just going to keep this selection. We still have our bulbs selected, so everything's just going to stay in here. And I'm going to go to a new layer, and I'm going to start doing my snowman. So I need my sketch back on, maybe a little brighter. You can't really see my snowman now. I'm going to turn my sketch way up. And we're just doing the same thing. We're just kind of playing around with different shades of bluish whitish. Having maybe if you think about your light coming from over here, have the top left areas be the brightest. Having them be sort of squashed circles that aren't just touching, but they're overlapping. I'm not filling in the whole thing with the next color, just adding another color to part of it. This is brighter, so I'm just kind of remembering that my light is coming from over here. And then also, if you really want to get technical, you could be adding some shadows in here. I would go to a new layer and maybe even a clipping mask. Maybe this color right here on a pretty small size. If you really think about it, each of these snowballs would be shadowing the one underneath, right? So if you get a little tiny bit of shadow in here, and because the light's coming from over here, it's going to be more shaded, shadowy over here. And it being a clipping mask means that it won't show up over here. It's just going to show up on top of your snowman. And also with it being a clipping mask, you can erase, and it's not erasing your snowman. So you have a lot of flexibility, but you are using another layer. So if you're limited on layers, you could do this with alpha lock on. If you alpha lock this layer and just do the shadowing on the same layer, you just can't erase. You also wouldn't be able to change the color if you decide, oh, this shadow is too dark, or it's too blue, or it's whatever. Right now, I can take this shadow layer and I can change the color entirely without having to redraw it all. Whoa! This one's looking a little weird. So right now hold on, I gotta go backwards because I didn't go back to my clipping mask earlier. All right, So right now, I can take my shadow layer and I can change the color of it really easily by alpha locking it and then tapping a different color and then tapping fill layer, and I've changed the color of it. And then I can take alpha lock off and I can keep working. But I liked it the other way. Now alpha lock is still on. All right. So if you're not familiar, no, I'm on the wrong color. If you're not familiar with clipping masks and alpha lock, that's sort of a little information about it. I'm going to come back down to my snowman and go to bright white and just get a small size and get some of the very brightest areas on here. Just make him have a little more contrast. I think I can turn my sketch layer off now. Oh, we never sketched his arms and stuff. So that's a pretty basic snowman. I think the other areas that would be shadowed would be the bottom of the top, right? So this ball is going to shadow this ball right here, but also this ball is going to have shadows on the bottom side of it. So that's another place that you can add some shadows if you want to go back and do that. Also, of course, on the whole bottom of the snowman. So I'm back on the clipping mask in case you missed that. I'm going to add a little bit more color down here because I want it to be a little darker. That might have been a little too much. So I'm adding a little shadow on the underside of that ball, each of the balls. So I would nitpick this for a long time, but I don't want to do that in a live. So these all take longer than the lives actually are. So, so I'm cutting some corners. And then I'm also looking at this and realizing that I want more brightness on my layers down here too. So I'll probably come back and do that as well. And also I want shadows for all of the tree areas. But let's go ahead and move over to the deciduous tree. We'll come back and do his arms and eyes and all that kind of stuff. So you can come down to any of your other layers. You can do it on the same layer that the snowman is on. I played around with that to show you the clipping mask. I have a blue blob over here that isn't showing up on anything because there's nothing over here on the layer that it's clipped to. But if I start drawing over here, that blue blob is probably going to show up. So then I'll show you. You just need to get rid of it. So for the tree, I'm going to start dark. So I'm going to get this dark brown right here. And I'm staying on the same brush the whole time. And I'm going to turn my sketch layer back on. Ooh, I can turn it down for this. And I'm just going to have fun blobbing some color on for the tree. We're going to bury it in the snow down here, so don't worry about the bottom. Can't really see very well with my white sketch, so I'm just going to kind of get an idea of where my branches are and turn my sketch back off. And it looks like I didn't run into that problem with the blue that's on that clipping mask. It must be way over here. Feel free to ask questions. I know this is kind of long. We're almost at an hour. I'm going to rush the tree a little bit. You can't skip the little bird. And then you can go to this these lighter browns here and add some color variation. You can go to the clipping mask just like you did. You can go to the same clipping mask you did for the snowman if you want to have control over that. Now you won't go off the edge, right? And the light again is coming from over here, so I'm going to put the light on the left and maybe the tops of some branches. This is looking really messy. But messy is good. I'm just gonna keep popping over to see if there's any questions. All right. I'm gonna call that tree done. I'm looking at the screen next to me and everything looks way messier on the screen. I'm looking at the one in my printout. I definitely spent a lot. I just tried to zoom in. I definitely spent a little more time. All right. So now let's go ahead and go to a layer above all of that, and we can work on the scarf and the arms and the face of the snowman and the bird on the tree. We can do all of those on one layer above everything else. At this point, we're not really blobbing paint on, so having this selection on isn't that big of a deal. But just so I remember, I don't forget to turn it on later, I kept it on. And I still want to come back and brighten up my snow down here, so he's as bright, it's as bright as the snowman is. So for a scarf, do I want to freehand this without a sketch? I went ahead and included the colors for the scarf, and then also if you want to make any of these a Christmas tree, I'll show you that. Ooh, my dog just jumped down. If you want to use, yellow and red, make any of those a Christmas tree, those are those colors. I'm going to tap the red, choose any color you want for the scarf. And let's do this with no sketch. I'm going to come a little bit more towards pink here. Oh, we spent all that time shadowing that we're about to block it, cover it up. So for the scarf part around the neck, we are thinking about a big bulky scarf. I'm going to come down to a super small brush, and a big bulky scarf will be bunched up under, right? Kind of. It's not just going to be a straight line. So fill in this area, tap a little harder to get more color down. So it's not just a super straight, I'm going to zoom in for you. It can be super messy and just kind of all snuggled up under the chin, snowman chin. So that's just going to be the wrapped around the neck part. And then we're going to have them kind of facing the bird over here. So the knot on the scarf would probably be more towards the right. So you can have it come down as long as you want. You can try to have it blowing in the wind. I'm just going to keep it super simple and have them get narrower up here and wider down here. Because if they came up to form a knot up there, they would be narrower. And then I'm going to have them wider down here. Now my dogs are supposed to be fed. Whoops. They'll be okay going a little longer. Whenever I have somebody else feed them. So one of my dogs is terminal, and one of the things that we've had to change, he's doing really, really, really well, but one of the things we've had to change is his diet. And so he really has a very luxurious diet. He has cooked fish, cooked butternut squash, some cottage cheese, and broccoli, Greek yogurt. So there's a certain proportion for each of those things. And so whenever I have to leave during a mealtime, they also eat 4 times a day, all because of his issues. And whenever I have to leave, I just kind of prepare their meals, because of course the other one has to eat at the same time. All right, this is super fuzzy scarf. Anyways, I prepare their little meals in little dishes because I'm the one that knows the measurements. All right, we'll just add some super quick little, there we go, scarf. Let's go ahead and do his arms on this layer. I'm going to choose this super dark brown. Ooh, I don't know if I want to do it with this brush, but let's give it a try. So the other arm you could just omit entirely because it's kind of on the side over there, right? Or you could just kind of add just a little hint of one, right? And then the one over here is kind of coming out of a normal arm area. Just kind of make a little jaggedy stick. Make it thicker up in here. Don't make it smooth. Give a couple little notches on it. And let's go ahead and just bring that down pretty dark and do a little face. So if he's facing over here, and let's see, oh, the bird is going to be lower. So let's make his nose point lower. So his nose is going to be about there. And sort of a 3/4 view of the face is just kind of make the eye, there we go. Make the eyes, make the one that is to the right a little smaller, and the one that's closer to you a little bigger. For this one, I'm making this one also a little higher. And then some of those little coal mouth buttons there. This orange, I can't remember if that's the orange for the nose. It works. All right, make it nice and jaggedy little carrot there. Kind of pointing it down towards wherever your bird is going to be. So it looks like it's looking at the bird. So cute. I might make those eyes a little bigger, but I'm not going to do that right now. And I can't really see, it's kind of, the snowman's kind of disappearing a little bit because of the color down here. So I'm going to come back and just add a little more white down here. So that is the top layer because it's the closer layer. It's on top of everything. So I'm going to go to white. That's not really true white, but it's pretty white. And I'm just going to get some brightness on here. So my snowman, I can really see the edges of my snowman now. See how... And I still am going to add shadows for everything, but... Yeah, I still feel like it's kind of blending in there. It looks like he's falling over. I probably need to come back and change some of the colors and the shape of the snowman itself. So I'm not going to do that right now, but I can go ahead and go to that snowman layer and go to liquify, and on push here, go to a pretty big size and just maybe play around with that a little bit. Trying to push them together, I might have to pinch. All right, well, not such a great snowman there on that back side. But I'm running out of time, so I'm going to leave him like that. And let's do the bird and then just do some of the snow sprinkles. So for the bird, I'm going to go to the layer that I used for the scarf and everything, so it's not on the same layer as the tree itself. And I'm not going to sketch it first because I'm in a hurry. So I'm going to go to this middle brown right here. I'm going to look at my bird here. So for a bird, I think it just darkened my screen. Ah, it's darkening my screen because the sensor is up there. Let's see if I can do it over here. So the big center belly area, this is a fluffy winter fluffed up bird because he's cold. I'm going to sit him right on the branch. And I'm making him all one color right now. And then he's going to be at this, his back is kind of at this angle here. I'm going to make sure I see the snowman. I don't want him looking down. He's got to look up at the snowman. So his head is going to be right here. And his tail is going to come back down here. Just a little triangle. It's tiny, so it really isn't going to make that big of a difference. It does need to go behind the branch though. So if your angle is such that it's going to show on top of the branch, just kind of erase part of it. Oh, now I can't get my colors. And then I'm going to go to the lighter one and do his belly in that color. I'm just going to do it all on the same layer. Just going to do a belly. It's a type of robin, but you don't need to be super precise. And then that kind of chest, do the orange for the chest. For that upper chest, I don't know what that's called. I'm going to go dark for the beak and the eye. I might need to go to a different brush. Where is he needing to look? He needs to look up there. I'm going to point his nose up there. Yeah, I probably would get a different brush for this. But that's generally what you need to do. I'm going to go to that brown again that we did for the base color of the bird and just get a little stripiness here. Maybe the wing. You could do a couple little feet down here. But if he's super cuddly looking, you won't see his feet. All right, I think we're gonna stop there and then do the snow. So we have the selection on. So you have your selection on here. If you don't have that on right now, go to one of your stamps. If you're using the 2 stamps, use the inner one and turn your inner selection on. And then we're going to go to a new layer. And you can go ahead and go to all the way white. And we're going to play with opacity anyways. And go to this Starry Night. And the snow that's inside the snow globe is small, right? I'm going to erase the one that's on his face there. Have a little variation. Don't go overboard too much. But all your snow is going to stay within that because of your selection being on. And then because it's on a different layer, I can erase the ones that are really just in bad spots here. Oh, like that one. Maybe that one. So you can now change the opacity of that layer if you want, if it's a little too bright. And then now for the snow in the background, I need to deselect. And I need to go all the way down to a new layer. that is under all of the globe illustration stuff. I'm going to go to a bigger size, whoops, on my starry brush. And I'm going to do a layer that's kind of big, and I'm going to turn the, well, sorry, hold on. The first layer that's going to have low opacity is going to be small. And so I'm going to add a bunch of snow, and I'm going to turn the opacity down on that layer so it's not very visible, and it just looks like it's farther away. So you can use that brush as a stamp or a brush. And then I'm going to add another layer that's bigger, and that one's going to look closer. So you can add a few layers using that same idea of things that are farther away are smaller, and things that are closer are bigger. And then you can play around with what opacity you like for all of that too. And then adding Christmassy stuff if you're into Christmas. I would also, I'm going to go ahead and, well, I see it's only 12:09. Oh, hi, Yvette. Oh, and I didn't add the chain, so I won't cut off quite yet, but I got to cut off soon because my dogs are hungry. But I want to add a little, I didn't do the shadows. Okay, so I need shadows from the trees and the snowman, and I need the chain up here. So let's go ahead, and for shadows, I want to be under the trees and the snowman layers. So I'm going to tap on my group here and add a layer, any way you want to get a layer underneath your trees and snowman. And then let's go to kind of one of our darker blues. You might have to darken it as you go back here to these layers. And then I'm going to also test it out, probably a multiply. Color burn, linear burn, and multiply you can test out with a gray blue. And then go to soft Larapuna again. And oh, my shadows are different in this than my original illustration because our light is coming from over here, so all the shadows are going to come this way. Shadows are darker as they're closer to the object, and then they fade away. This might be a little bit too blue, but I'm going to stick with it. And I'm not being very precise, just adding a little bit. That's all you need. Darker and fade away. That one went whiter. Oh, and I also didn't have my selections, so my shadow came outside here. So I'm going to just undo. I don't think it did that anywhere else. All right, so we need to select our inner bulb and go back to our shadow layer right there. I'm going to go to a smaller size and get a skinnier shadow on this one. I'm going to get a shadow under this snowman, bring it out this way. With this brush, I don't really need to keep switching back to smudge. I'm barely pressing on the canvas, on the glass. I'm going to darken this shadow down here a little bit. And then back here, I might need to go to a darker color. No, it looks okay. I do need to go to a smaller size. So you get the point. Just think about where your lighting is the whole time. Oh, sorry about that. Everybody's getting ready for lunch and making noise out there. That was probably loud in your ears. Okay, now I'm being fussy about my shadows. And then I don't know if you noticed, I kind of added a little mound of brighter snow under the snowman too. So you could do that too. I'm not going to do that today. And then for the chain, we can deselect. Let's go to one of these two brushes and any color you want. I'm going to do yellow, and I'm just doing it right on top. I need to go to a new layer. Yeah, that layer has snow on it. Sometimes you can't see when you have something on a layer. Go to a new layer. This snowball brush has some size variation, but I think it's fun. Something like that. And you can adjust it a little bit, make it look like it's right up under the glass. And then of course this side, one of the sides, is going to be behind the glass, right? So you want it to have a lower opacity. So I'm going to select it and I'm following along the edge of the glass itself. And I'm selecting this little section right here to lower the opacity. Uh-oh, I think yeah, so now, ooh, I can't remember. I've only done it this way once before. I don't think I can lower the opacity on a selection if I tap this N, but let me try it. Oh, yeah, it's letting me. So it kept the selection and the opacity. No, see, the opacity is changing on the whole layer. 2-finger tap on the layer. Yeah, so that's, I don't know why. So let me show you what I just did there. So the selection, I selected the part that I want to have it appear to be behind this glass, right? And then I went to the layer, and when I tried to change the opacity on the layer, it changed the whole layer. But if I 2-finger tap the layer, I can now slide to adjust the opacity, and it's only adjusting the opacity of my selection. And then deselect. So now it just kind of looks like it's behind there. And you know, you can fix this here if you want to not have that weird blank spot there. Something like that. What I did in mine is I just made them look like balls. So you can use a clipping mask, or you can just do alpha lock and painstakingly go through and paint each one. So you can go to a darker color, to now remembering your light is coming from this way, so you're going to have dark over here and lighter up here. Just kind of do it simple for each one. When you zoom out, you don't need to do that. But I did. So yellow, I don't know, yellow's kind of weird to do shadows on, so I did red for this one. All right, did I remember everything this time? I know I didn't do the star and the Christmassy stuff because not everybody's Christmassy. Oh wow, I made my bird really tiny compared to this one. So maybe make your bird bigger so it's more visible. Any questions? Thank you for hanging in there. Did I remember everything? I got my shadows. My snowman needs some work where these two meet right here, and also just making it a little bit more visible where the edges are. Yeah, I like it. Oh, hi, Chris. Beautiful, can't watch now. It's over, Chris. You can watch it later in IGTV. But thank you for trying. All right, I'm just scrolling back and looking. I think I got to all the questions. Oh, I see questions in my little question box. Oh yeah, now I think people just accidentally request to join. I've done that before. Oh, and you can go back, and if you decide your glass is not as noticeable as you would like it to be, then you can go back and go to those layers. So that would be, oh, it would be up here. Ah, so that chain actually needed to go way up to the top. And so with your glass layers, this is the strong reflection one, but this one is the one that's just kind of faint everywhere. You could try just duplicating it and see if you like it like that. And then merge those two so it stands out more. So yeah, now you would go back and spend some time figuring out if you're happy with your glass. You can always go to the airbrush. I don't use airbrush too much, but that would give you a much smoother glass. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I always say guys. All right, I have to go. Bye, see ya.